would you like to improve your health and keep your family safe? You're listening to the Healthy Home Hacks Podcast, where we firmly believe enjoying optimal health shouldn't be a luxury. Healthy Home Authorities and husband and wife team Ron and Lisa will help you create a home environment that will level up your health. It's time to hear from the experts. Listen in on honest conversations and gain the best tips and advice. If you're ready to dive in and improve your well-being and increase your energy, you're in the right place. All right, here are your hosts, bowel biologists, authors, media darlings, vicarious vegans, and avocado aficionados, Ron and Lisa Barris.
Chronic health conditions are at an all-time high. Something needs to change. We need a different perspective. Dr. Patrick Flynn. Friends, I have a question for you. And be honest, are you stressed? Stress statistics worldwide reveal that stress has risen dramatically across businesses. According to the Recovery Village, approximately 75% of people in the US reported experiencing moderate to high stress levels just in the past month.
Yep. And according to a Harvard School of Public Health poll, of the people who suffered a major stressful event, 43% report that the event was health related. Guys, stress can lead to inflammation and unfortunately even more serious health issues. Americans, no surprise there, were voted as one of the most stressed people in the world, according to a Gallup poll. Around 55% of Americans cited feeling stressed for most of the day, with anxiety and worry being common among another 45% of the population, mainly related to finances. As millions of us seek ways to lead a healthy life, we search for ways to address our stress levels and minimize the consequences of a stressful life.
Our guest today, Dr. Patrick Flynn, is here to change that and is as passionate as you about making sure families are healthy. He helps people think differently about their health, restore hope, and finally, feel great again. He is the founder of The Wellness Way with over 80 clinics worldwide. His widely popular public seminar, The Hormone Connection, has been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people. Dr. Flynn believes that everything in the human body is also connected. He is here with us today to help you start caring for your body and be one step closer to finding the root cause of your challenges.
Yay! And in his youth, Dr. Flynn experienced a series of events that led him to discover immune and neurological issues. This discovery prompted Dr. Flynn to begin his health journey, define his life purpose, and initiate the pursuit of his education. It ultimately led him to his dynamic career, where he has created a totally different approach to healthcare. Dr. Flynn has over 20 years of experience. He is the best-selling author of I Disagree. He's trained thousands of doctors around the US and is an expert on human physiology, anatomy, nutrition, herbal medicine, and chiropractic principles.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Flynn.
Welcome.
That was a heck of an intro. Thank you so much.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you for being with us today.
I am so excited. I cannot tell you how long I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, we've covered a lot of topics. I don't think we've really covered stress, and it is a pandemic. The pandemic of stress right now is
How does that relate, Lisa? Stress and pandemic?
I think Dr. Flynn is going to tell us.
Absolutely. We'll get right to it. So Dr. Flynn, what effect does stress have on the body?
Well, I want you to think about this. It changes everything very quickly. If I was sitting in the studio with you guys, and let's just take a physical stress, okay? And a lot of people do not realize that your big toe controls your heart. And people are like, well, what do you mean? I love the faces when I get that. I said, well, if I happen to step on your big toe, what happens to your heart rate? Immediately, it goes up. That physical stress led to a change in your blood pressure, heart rate, cholesterol levels, brain levels, all your hormone levels from a simple physical stress just by somebody stepping on your toe. And now the nice thing is, usually immediately you just push somebody off and then those things will start to go back to normal. But I want you to think about this. What if you had a captive thought that was stressful? Could that change your blood pressure, your hormone levels, all the other things in the body that way? And it does. And I've proven beyond a shadow of doubt that the number one thing that will actually lead to, especially ladies, being sick is actually mental stress. For example, I always very, very popular hormone connection seminar. When I'm talking about the difference of hormones between men and women, I'll say, okay, listen, who stresses out more, men or women? And all women say women. And I say women. who causes the women the most stress? Men. And I'm like, there you go. And we all laugh. But then I realized that the reason why it's called the hormone connection is because hormones and stress affect men dramatically different. It affects them both physically and psychologically. And because they don't understand that, we actually relate to stress differently and how it affects our body dramatically differently. And so therefore it can relate to disease, it can relate to psychological problems, it can relate to relationship problems, all from the understanding that it could start from simple as a thought, a step on the toe, or let's say you ate something that was stressful to your body. See, stress is a physical, it's a chemical, and it's actually a emotional thing. Except for the sad part is I've always said, if you look at some of the major stressors in people's lives, they're stepping on their toe every single day. And it could be from as simple as a bad day at work, it could be simple as some bad food, it could be simple as taking a drug, which actually is a chemical that could actually cause stress to make the body go in a really bad way.
Hey, Dr. Flynn, this is so funny because you said stepping on the toe 3 times, right? And that's a physical stress. I have to share this quick story. It has nothing to do with the show whatsoever, but I think it's kind of funny. This person was very stressed. So picture, if you will, me a long time ago in college, dressed up in a suit, applying for an internship and going up in a 4-story building, really nice dress shoes, really hard heel, right? Okay, so I'm in this elevator. The person behind me, this is also a medical building, he had just gotten an operation on his foot and had this very nice soft cast. And you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yes, I do.
And he just got out of the operating room. He was behind me, and I thought I was getting off on the particular floor. I went forward and backed up, and talk about stress. The back hard part of my heel literally perfectly went into a soft little cast that he just put on.
Ooh.
And I heard him scream, and you can't apologize enough, but I think he was experiencing stress. Is that true, Dr. Flynn?
Well, that's true. Actually, no joke. If you would actually put a blood pressure cuff on him, do you understand his blood pressure would have been up?
Yeah.
His hand?
I'm sure yours was too, Ron.
I felt so bad.
Well, yes. And there's some truth to that. And see, you can relate to that going, oh my goodness. Now, but the nice thing about stress like that pain and stress is going to come down very quickly. But you're going to find out that most people have some form of body stress all day long, and they wonder where their conditions and stuff came from.
Mm-hmm. I am a much calmer person today than I was when we first started our business and entrepreneurial journey. I was one of those people, like so many listeners, that the glorification of busy, that was encouraged. And so living in that fight or flight stressful mode, I think was something that we embraced and thought was a good thing. And if you did 20 million things and didn't get sleep, that was a good thing, right? People brag about not sleeping enough. So our society definitely self-perpetuates this. But Dr. Flynn, how much does stress affect a person's health? Like what level are we talking about?
It's the key. It's actually a key to actually figuring out, once again, pathological process. It's a key to actually keeping yourself healthy in the first place. Because anytime that your body goes into fight or flight from any kind of stressor, there is a process that leads us to some form of disease. If you think about this, if you think about even the aspect of blood pressure, if you have some physical stress that's continuous, I know it sounds dumb, now let's throw a pebble in your shoe and you walk around it all day. It's going to change now the stress hormones. It's going to change your blood pressure. If that blood pressure doesn't come down, you're going to end up with some heart disease, different things like that. And that's why if you ever look at chronic illness, it's nothing more than long-term stress. Now, once again, there's really 3 forms of stressors. There's a physical, there's a chemical, and they're emotional. So what I did at a young age, what almost led me to death, was I actually consumed a food that created some stress and inflammation in my body, and I almost died from an egg. You understand?
Oh, wow.
And that's what led me to be a doc and things like that. But I didn't realize this before I even had that kind of reaction. You can actually have that stress. And we know this quite simply. So I was eating an egg, and even though I didn't have a pathological response yet, but what if you just had a little bit of response, a little bit of inflammation, and it was changing the biochemistry of your brain? We know that even John Hopkins termed it called the gut-brain connection.
Yeah.
So there was an immune stressor that created a hormonal change neurologically. And I was diagnosed as a juvenile delinquent as 3rd grade. They said I couldn't focus. Today, they would call me ADHD, ADD, all Asperger's, things like that. But what if I told you that those children, those individuals, people with psychiatric issues, that they have some stressors that are like a pebble in their shoe all day long that they're not looking for? And if all you do is try to give some drug or medication to alter it, the stress is still there.
And that's just causing more side effects. So you're allergic to the egg? Is that what we're talking about? An allergy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Were you continuing to eat eggs and not knowing, or?
No. So for example, I was the kind of individual that, as I had eaten eggs my whole life and then got into my teenage years and things like that. And then that's what got me on my health journey, because all of a sudden, next thing you know, that you actually you find those inflammatory things that are those stressors and go, oh my goodness. And even this day, I've never reacted since a long time ago. Well, why? Because I avoid that stress.
Yeah.
But if I want to put my body into a fight or flight disease developing process, just keep on eating egg. And people say, well, doc, you don't like chemicals. You said chemicals are stressors. Why don't you just eat organic eggs? Well, good. I'll just be organically dead.
Right. We interviewed Dr. Gina Nick a couple episodes ago. She's a naturopath here in Newport Beach. And she talked about the exact same thing you're saying, that she treats behavioral disorders with mostly children.
Yeah.
The first thing she does is approach their diet. She's like,
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's for people listening. Think about that. If your child is drugged up on medication, what's the long-term effect of those meds? What's the side effects that they're dealing with? Maybe there's a better option for you.
Yes, there is. It's significant.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of stress? I know we just talked about the factors as why stress was involved, but can you give us some specific examples that our listeners
what is causing most people's stress?
Well, okay, so let's do this. So to give you a little story on that, let me set up a little bit that way. So my history led me to there where I was like, okay, now I decided to actually go for nutrition, immunology, all the different backgrounds as undergraduate. And then I knew that medicine didn't have the answer because it was like, okay, listen, why don't you just take some allergy shots or different things like that? Like, no, and I started to investigate, and I was only a teenager at this time. So I decided, you know something, I'm going to actually look into some more natural healing professions. And that's why I went into the chiropractic realm. And it was kind of neat because I took all my education and put it together. But really what led me to actually understanding and even talking about stuff today is I was just finishing up graduate school, wasn't completely done yet, and I met my beautiful bride, okay? Now this time, obviously I didn't know she was being my wife, but she was told that she could never have children. She had endometriosis, cystic acne, ulcerative colitis, and cluster headaches. And from what I understood and from my experience being a young individual to a doc, I realized that what they were telling her, I said, I disagree with them because it didn't make sense to what they were telling me that way. And what if I told you that, for example, not a joke. So all of a sudden, I had to figure out those stressors to my wife. Now today, we've been married over 20 years. We have 4 beautiful daughters. And
I have seen your Instagram. Of course, I checked you out before the show and I was like, oh my God, what a gorgeous family. Your family is so cute.
Thank you so much.
So cute. Go check them out on Instagram. Cutest family ever.
They do look like my wife, so that's a good thing. Okay. But the thing is this, but here's what happens. Where they were trying to change her body and actually, they never looked at the stressors. Now, my wife, no joke, grew up on a dairy farm. When I started testing her to find out those inflammatory stressors, so anything that stresses the body, like physically, and I'm not joking, stepping on your toe is a physical stressor. I know it sounds funny. One of my degrees is a chiropractor. A spine inflamed can be a stressor. That's why you hear about certain things going away if you remove that stress. But they don't all go away because of that stress. There's other stressors. Now, my wife grew up on a dairy farm. No joke. So I ran all their food panels, see like that. She was allergic to it. Guess what her number one allergy was?
Milk.
Dairy.
Yeah.
So even though she had raw dairy from a bulk tank, unprocessed things like that, it was an inflammatory stressor to her. On top of it, she was in college, just graduated college when I met her. She was starting her career and everything like that. Talk about the mental stress. And I will tell you by a shadow of a doubt, this is not a joke, that mental stress will kill women faster than anything because it's something that they can hold on to on a regular basis that will put our body into fight or flight things that release into pathological disease and illness. And so I came along and said, you know something, as a doc, it's my job to figure out all the stressors in individuals. And I can tell you, people say, you're telling me that the whole hormone system, I'll tell you right now, I can tell you right now, I can connect it just by showing you one hormone, that the stressors will deplete a woman's hormones faster than anything. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Here, think of this. Ladies, have you ever experienced this? You had something mentally stressful happen and you skipped or delayed your period?
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, because there is a connection. That's what I talk about. Medicine looks at the body like it's a bunch of separate gears. How do I know? There's a podiatrist. There's a heart doctor. There's a doctor. They do. And a specialist is a person that knows more and more about less and less. That's what a specialist is.
I'll say that again. That's funny.
A specialist is a person that knows more and more about less and less. So what they do, I would say the body's like a Swiss watch. It's a bunch of gears. And they look at one gear and they say, look at this.
Yeah.
And I want specialists.
They don't look at the whole body connection.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it's simple when you sit there and go, if you stress out your adrenals, which is your stress gland, if it's mental, if it's chemical, or if it's physical, here's what happens. Everybody knows there's a stress hormone called cortisol.
Yeah.
But here's the one thing which made me get known 23 years ago, which made my hormone connection seminar so important. Cortisol actually comes from progesterone. Progesterone is so key to a woman's life.
Yeah.
So
I can
drain
attest.
their progesterone.
I supplemented with I supplement with progesterone for so many years, natural, made from yams. A lot of people don't know that, but bioidentical progesterone is actually derived from yams, wild yams. And it made me feel so great. Yeah. It's the feel good. It's a feel good hormone, right?
But here's where I will differ on this. I'm okay with you using that. But do you ever ask why you're constantly getting your progesterone drained?
Well, yeah.
And see that and I know it's her husband's part, right?
It's my husband. It's Ron's fault, Dr. Flynn.
I don't know you guys that well, but
this is like an intervention. What's going on?
This is intervention.
But I do want you to think about this. So I'm out speaking about hormones. I'm out doing hormones, and women are like, okay, doc, you got to teach this because the stress laid that way. And all of a sudden, there's a pastor in one of the seminars one time. He's like, you got to speak at this church. Do you know the second largest group I speak to is? Christian marriage conferences.
Yeah, I believe that.
Going, all right, here's what happens. There is a hormone connection between these things. And the flip side, get this. If I was in studio with you right now, and I tried to physically attack your husband, testosterone is not connected to it. Actually, as testosterone go up, men are meant to handle stress. Women are not.
Oh, because we don't have as much testosterone? Is that why?
No. Well, on top of it, here's what happens this. You don't depend on testosterone. We do. And your fight or flight, actually hormone, when our cortisol goes up, guess what happens? The biggest thing that's affected maybe is our digestion, but we actually get stronger. Get stronger.
Jeez.
And women,
another thing the girls are unfair.
And it's because you're from California, and I don't want to be disrespectful at all. But here's like this: there's a big feminist movement. I'm going. You can have a big feminist movement all you want. You talked about before. You push yourself, ladies, hard. You will end up sick.
Oh yeah, good Lord.
And
I was there. Yep.
I'm sorry. So I had to go around preaching. Listen, we need to do these things. The stress is actually contributing to it. Now, yes, is there more than mental stress? Yes, but deal with women for 23 years. Remember, my number one thing I dealt with my whole career was fertility. I actually can't tell you last time I ever took care of a patient that was a guy. And I have clinics all over. We take care of millions of guys every year and stuff like that. But here's the point, I started to realize that women actually have so many stressors to their life. But I started to realize, actually getting to know them, that the mental stress actually destroyed them the most.
The mental,
and
okay.
The hormones are different for men and women, dictate how we even deal with stress.
Wow.
It's like this. If you think this way, testosterone is a very focused, laser-focused hormone. It gets us focused on one thing. Women's estrogens are very connecting. That's why they can connect. That's why they can do multitasking like crazy that way. And if a guy sees a woman stressed, he walks over to her. I guarantee your husband walks over to you because he loves you. And he gives you his best advice from his hormonal standpoint is, honey, stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's when you want to kill him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every woman can relate to that. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
My point. And I started to realize but there's a hormonal reason why. And that's the disconnection. Because with understanding how guys relate to stress and women relate to stress and how it affects their hormones, I started teaching this and I started getting emails saying, Doc, you made our marriage better. I'm like, really? And I was like, so it's really kind of funny how I kind of evolved into the process. Mine was more of a sick kid issue, but my wife's story allowed me to actually evolve this from that kind of thinking.
Right. So going back to the food that you touched upon, is that something that you do with all your patients right away? Do you do an allergy and a food tolerance test? What do you advise there for people who are listening going, I've never done that. What should I do?
So I have people come to me that are fitness people, things like that. I'm just giving a whole array of different people. And they say, Doc, I have a really good diet. I'm like, let me see your labs. Well, I never did one. Don't tell me you have a good diet.
Right. You don't know what's good for you. Sometimes.
I'm sorry. Because here's what happens is this. Do you understand that the majority of inflammation, the majority of stress response is immeasurable? You don't feel it. Actually, people don't realize this. You go on the American Heart Association website, the number one symptom in 70% of people that actually have developed heart disease, you know what the number one symptom is? Death. People get the pain down the arm, pain in the chest is actually the lucky ones. Because thank God we have a medical system that could save you from dying from a heart attack.
Right.
So that's why I tell you, I don't care how people feel. That's what I said. I want to see your labs. So don't tell me you have a good diet because you know what something is this? My wife had no idea from a digestive standpoint that she was allergic to dairy, didn't even feel that way. She's petite. She was always petite. And so what happens is this, but because that created a demand on her hormones, it was something that caused an imbalance that you could have never, quote, felt.
Yeah.
And so I'm so big in labs.
Yeah, I found that out many years ago, Ron, when you and I were first dating. I had a great naturopath and she did the full food allergy test, which tests for over 100 different foods. And casein, the protein in cow's milk, was way off the chart. And so was egg whites for me. I had naturally just kind of got these foods. I don't feel good when I eat them. So I had already taken them out of my diet, but it was so weird to see that on the chart and go, God, I grew up eating all that. I did suffer from bloating and digestive problems. So yeah, your body will talk to you if you listen. Okay. So yeah, we talked about how stress affects people differently, but are there groups that are more affected? We're talking women, children, elderly.
Yeah,
how
age
would we?
groups. Yeah. Why are old people grumpier?
Because they're in pain.
No, I guess they're in pain. Okay, there you go. You answered my question, Liz. I didn't need to ask the doctor that one.
But actually, believe it or not, you're not very off. And let me explain why. If you think about our current healthcare system today, and I'll give you an analogy that I created, I think is actually a great understanding so people don't get biased on this. I always tell people, I say, I want you to think about there's really two forms of healthcare, but even with everything going on today, they actually act like there's only one. I would say, listen, I want you to think about medicine like the fire department. If your house catches on fire, you need a fire department to get there as quickly as possible, axes and hoses to put out the fire. But you know that when they're actually putting out the fire, do you know they destroy half your house? They really do. And you're grateful they do it. Why? Because they're trying to prevent your house from burning down in times of the essence. But the fire department, even if they did a good job, you would never ask them to rebuild their house with their tools that they have. See, everybody's like, well, doc, that's pretty simple. You actually call a carpenter. Now, a carpenter is going to look at the house. The fire department's going to think, man, I'm great. Carpenter's going to walk in and go, this is a freaking mess. I got to do all these things to rebuild it. If you actually understand that example, and obviously I go in more detail, but I'm trying to cover a certain time in podcast here, is if your husband right now had a heart attack and stroke, guess what happens? Let's call that a fire. I want him to get as quickly as possible to the emergency room, axes and hoses, drugs and surgeries to put the fire out. But let me ask you a question. What drug or surgery is going to get his body back normal or help rebuild his body back normal? It's impossible. So I don't care if it's COVID. I don't care if it's hormones. I don't care if this. You cannot get back to normal.
It's just treating the symptom, right? I mean, we're talking about.
And I want, no. It's even treating the condition. It's a fire. And I have no problem with that. And now what we've done, because we don't know how to take care of people, we've moved into a management. I mean, there was a drug commercial the other day. It was like called New Way. It was a diabetes drug. They say, this is your new normal of doing things. No, that's if you're taking care of them. See, so that's why it's point. I have people do this. People say, well, doc, let me ask your husband. You've probably done some podcast things with that. When you hit puberty for a guy, testosterone skyrockets. Okay. How long does your testosterone stay high for? Take a guess on for me.
How long did it stay high for? Like it started from puberty, you mean?
From start puberty, when does it start to go down?
Well, it still hasn't, Dr. Flynn. So is that normal?
We'll put it this way. The average medical person, I was speaking recently at a medical conference, and they said, well, statistically, after the age of 40, it starts to decrease about 6-7% every year. And I stood up and I said, yes, if they're under your care.
That's good.
Well, because here's why. Let me ask you a question. From a young age, from teenage to puberty, just like a cyclic young girl, what have they done to teach you how to take care of your hormones? See, that's not even a thought process to people. It's like, that's my point. And so now all of a sudden, let's say you have all these young girls have all these stressors, more stress. And I will tell you this, and this is where I get a little criticism because I just even talked about how women can have stress. If you have a young athlete girl, especially high intensity swimmers, bikers, runners, they skip their cycles.
Yeah.
Because they physically stress out their body so much. The doctors take care of them, don't know how to take care of them. So therefore they say, well, it's kind of common for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I said, but
I always heard that too. Oh yeah, it's just because they're athletic,
But then why is my daughters who are athletic and actually great golfers and do things that way, do high intensity and never lose their cycle, and it's always normal?
Yeah.
Because the doctors taking care of people, they only understand fire department type services.
Yeah.
And our whole world, including what's happening today, including your state, which has lost its mind.
Yeah.
Guess what happens? It's all about
we can vouch for that.
One side. No.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if it wasn't for the weather, we'd I don't know if we'd be here either.
I know the weather.
There's some really good things. Yeah.
So, hey, Dr. Flynn, I know you're focused on stress, obviously.
Yep,
but
absolutely.
Are you familiar with gout and symptoms of gout and how that can relate to stress? Okay. So
absolutely.
I innately have had gout over the years. I've managed to really calm it with my diet and everything too, but
we're vegan. We're full vegan now.
It really helped me a lot. And I understand some of the parameters that might cause more inflammation and raise my uric acid levels. But do you have any suggestions there? Not to put you on the spot if you don't.
Absolutely. Well, remember, look at gout. Okay, start here. Look at the causal factors that can do it. There are inflammatory factors. Okay. Number one with gout, you got to look for some major immune factor. Okay. So you're going to find out, especially when you're joint related, there's going to be some infection sitting in your body somewhere. There really is. And it could be everything from yeast overgrowth to a viral aspect that way. And unless you test that stuff, you don't know how to address it that way. Because once again, inside that tissue, and it gets actually to the point where it's inflammatory to where you see those gout crystals. You ever see them at an electron microscope? They're like little razor blades that way. Okay. Now, here's what happens. Another major contributing factor is actually blood sugar. Okay. Just because, once again, the kidney issue comes about. Once again, kidneys get a little damage from it that way. Then you have a hard time clearing that out and it has to recirculate. And the number one factor that stresses out the kidney is actually blood sugar. That's why you see so many people on dialysis today. You look at the people that are dying from COVID or SARS-CoV-2, overweight, blood sugar issues. Now, people don't realize you don't have to be obese to have blood sugar issues. It's really interesting. One thing I want you guys to be very cautious of being vegan is the fact that your blood sugar levels go up very easily. So you need to actually make sure that you have more of a high fiber-based vegan, not more of a higher monosaccharide glucose-based vegan diet. Otherwise, what you'll do, you'll actually move yourself into it happens all the time with vegans. They actually become type 2 diabetic just because they actually have more glucose-based foods than actually fiber-based foods. Remember, nutrition is my background. So
when you say fiber, do you mean fiber from like fruit fiber, or would you talking more?
Okay, let's do this. Okay, remember, now you're talking my background.
Talking your lingo. Talking your language.
So I will tell you this. My daughters, my wife, my patients, with the exception of her, allergies trump everything. Yes, I'm going to be biased towards allergies because it could kill me. Okay. And I've seen so many allergies through my whole career. So with the exception of allergies, and I thank God that my daughters and my wife and them don't have any allergies to cabbage. So the healthiest, I still haven't found any healthier food than this, with the exception of one thing, is actually sauerkraut is still by far one of the healthiest foods. You understand 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut gives you all of your vitamin C recommendations for the day.
Get out. Really? So that would be a daily good thing to take.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I have even a diabetic that actually eats crappy, high sugar, carbohydrate-based stuff that way, that's all processed that way, I'll say, listen, let's start to add something into your diet. Can you do me a favor? I want you to stop all the crap. But you guys know this, food's by far, we talk about stress, food's by far the most emotional thing that we do. And guess what? Your husband says, no, doc, it's sex. No, that's not true. Because if I both told you to fast for a week, you both hate me really badly. Okay?
Right. Yeah. I don't like to fast.
Food. Exactly. It's really well, women should not fast.
Oh, good. That's music to my ears. Good.
Men
yay, ladies listening.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
Fasting will actually destroy a woman's hormones. We can talk about that. But anyway.
Yeah. So, I'm not a happy person when I fast.
Yes. Well, on top, it's very destructive for a woman.
Okay. Good to know.
So by adding some 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut for an adult, maybe like a teaspoon for a child per day, actually sets a fiber content to allow not only your normal flora to actually start digesting it, but also slows the absorption very slowly and doesn't raise your insulin levels. Okay. There's only 2 things that don't raise your insulin levels. It's higher fiber things and actually pure fat. Okay. Yeah. So for example, you guys being vegan, you want to take maybe like some avocado oil, coconut oil.
Yeah.
That will slow the absorption of your sugars down.
Okay. We do that. We love that. Yeah. Okay. So that's really good. And I've heard that fermented foods like sauerkraut is considered a fermented food, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we have like cabbage, sauerkraut, kombucha. Yeah. So this colleague, friend of ours, Zen, she runs Moms Across America. She's very outspoken on glyphosate and GMOs. That's her.
I like her already.
Oh, you love her. Shout out to her, Moms Across America. She cured. No, was it her? No, never. Different person. As I say, she cured her children of autism. That was a different person by taking them off gluten and dairy. But anyway,
which was a stress.
Was a stress, right? So she really, in her research, has found that fermented foods actually can help detox glyphosate out of the body too, which is really, it's still kind of cutting edge. I don't know if it's being completely recognized by scientific journals yet, but that's something that she's been discovering.
Actually, sure it has. It has. That's the thing. You remember, you're talking our world that way. That's actually, yes, it has. See, the one thing is this, is the reason why you don't see it on mainstream media is because there's no money in it. You know what I'm saying?
What are you saying, Dr. Flynn?
Can't buy sauerkraut in a bottle.
You can buy a big organic one for $7.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I've never even seen a sauerkraut. See, this is
fantastic.
I've never even. Okay, we're getting it. We're getting it soon. Okay. I mean, I've never actually bought the vegetable. So why is stress not a big topic in modern medicine? Why aren't doctors talking about it to their patients?
Well, if you think of it this way, you'd have to 2 reasons. Number one, you'd have to give up on everything you knew in the medical system to understand it, because you understand that a medication by definition is a stress to the body. Do you understand what a medication is by definition? A non-lethal dose of a lethal substance. That's the definition of medication. That's the true definition. See, do you understand? You would have to give up your current form of healthcare. Now you say, doc, well, a lot of doctors, you started out as quote a natural doc, but medical doctors work for you, nurses do, NPs, stuff like that. Yeah, and they think like we do. So I understand there's value to the fire department type of medical system, but that's not healthcare. That's actually
It's
disease
sick care.
management or
Sick care,
or
right?
saving a life.
Yeah.
And the idea is this. So what happens is this. So like, for example, I could walk downstairs because once again, I have a beautiful corporate office here at Green Bay. I have a major clinic with practitioners from NPs to nurses to chiropractors. And Durham, what happens is this. The medical people have to actually de-learn what they learned in school to actually work here. Because you know why? Because they're always going on a management. And we're always going, no. There's a stressor. Remember, houses catch on fire. There's triggers to the fire. And so I'm saying, listen, we need to dig deep for all those triggers. And Durham, you're right. Mental stress, but I will tell you this about women. Once you actually run a lab and see their stress hormones extremely high, I can even look at them and say, hey, guess what? I don't know what your mental stress is, and I'm not supposed to. That's a private issue, but I can tell you right now, it's killing you. And I didn't realize by telling them that to them, that actually when women take the unknown and make it known, they can deal with it quite well. And so therefore, the current form of healthcare system, can you imagine sitting down with a person and going, okay, listen, you're suffering with this condition. Here's your medication. No. Let's dig in deep and let's find out the things that are triggering all your fires. Well, no, you have to give up on everything you actually learned. But even doctors are so frustrated right now. I've spoken at medical school. The reason I bring that up is because it's a different way of thinking. They want to hear what I have to say because of obviously our clinical results. And I say, listen, guys, just understand that you are going to get frustrated like other doctors. They're frustrated like, I gave this person a drug, didn't help. I gave another person. And you understand that medicine is a lot of try-therapy. Don't believe me? Here, try this. Here, try this. I'm like going, well, yeah, because stressors change. Stressors change based on the season. It's 0 degrees here. If I would go in shorts outside, my body would go in fight or flight stress, and all my blood's going to pour towards my core to the point where I can actually lose minerals and blood flow and everything to my fingers. And if I stay out there long enough and I stress my body out long enough, I can lose my fingers and toes. The body didn't make a mistake. It said, I'm going to survive stress. I started to figure out that most people's conditions were just long-term stress adaptation.
Wow.
Let's start removing those, and your body's genetically programmed to go back to normal.
Where are you based, by the way? What city are you in?
My first office and my corporate office is actually Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Okay. Packers fan?
I am definitely a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but I actually don't watch football.
Yes, love Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers,
Woo-hoo,
yes.
shout out. Okay.
Yes, because he told the NFL medical system to screw off. That's what I heard. So
love it.
Yep.
Yes, standing up for your health.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
Yes.
your health decisions are your choice, and they should be.
Yes, and that's key.
Yes. That's the key.
So I like your approach to dealing with stress. Do you have anything additional you wanted to say about that too? Perhaps you just, you go to the root, it sounds like.
I will tell you this, no matter what doctor you talk to, if they ever tell you they can help you, they actually lied to you. I want you to think about this.
You're like a
Any
quote
doctor
machine.
says-
You have so many good quotes.
Yeah, you got the sound bites
I'm going to call you
down,
Dr. Quote.
Flynn.
Yeah, you have great
Dr.
sound
Quote
bites.
Flynn.
Well, because let's do this. Let's say that your lovely wife, just like mine, they're going to have something that's stressful to their life. Okay? Think of it this way. And let's say even as a doctor, I recognize that, listen, it's a mental stress issue that's happened that way. So I'm going to come in and take all that burden as your doctor off and I'm going to help you? No. Being a doctor is actually being a tour guide. I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to show you what a good life can be like. And you're on. So let's say that I'm allergic to eggs and I keep on eating them. How can my doctor help me if I'm stressing out my body?
He can recommend just egg for you, which is
Yes, just egg. That's right.
Just egg.
But if I don't listen to him, how can he help me? Any doctor that says he can help you is actually saying, I'll take all the responsibility. It's like this. Just everybody gets a shot and everything will be fine. Oh my goodness.
Right.
We don't want to go in that part.
We don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
So any doctor who tells you can help him, to me, is actually a liar. I don't care if he's natural. I don't care if he's medical. I don't care. I'm going, really? Because if you understand how the body works, the only way that I'm helping you is if your blood pressure's up because I stepped on your toe and I get off your toe because I'm the cause of your stress. But it's an individual responsibility. But that's what a doctor's job is. A doctor by Latin term is called teacher. So therefore, guess what happens this? So this idea that I'm going to give you some magic adjustment, magic herb, magic drug that's going to cure you is a outright lie.
Yeah. And society's been programmed that that's what they get. And you're right. I think I see this a lot in the older people too, because they kind of put the doctor on the pedestal and I just want my magic pill and I'll go home and everything will be better and I don't have to change anything about my life. And I think getting people to understand that and realize that we do have responsibility and that all of the choices we make add up to our entire well-being. Of course, Ryan and I talk about the toxins in your environment, and those are stressors too.
They are. There you go.
There you go.
So that's why, as a person, like I told you, I love that person that's fighting it. So I am basically an advocate for non-toxic living, keep the stress down. And what the cool thing that I did as young as a practitioner, I said, listen, we can test for all this stuff. We can. And then we need to rebuild the house because that's what we're an expert in. And I'm sorry, there's no medication. There's no surgery that you can build your house out of. And it's not a criticism. Vice versa. I can't do surgery. And if you have a heart attack, then guess what? I want the fire department, aka medical system, to actually do its job. But they're not the only choice. You understand? And it should be a person's choice. No, everybody has to do this in order to go to school and this in order to shop.
Yeah.
No,
Well, not a one size fits all kind of. So what successes have you seen with your patients in helping them with stress? Can you give us some examples?
Well, I just start with my wife. You know what I'm saying?
She was told she could never have children.
Right.
That's
And now millions of patients across the world that we have seen. For example, it's like you can't have kids. You're going to die of cancer. You always have digestive problems. It's a genetic problem, which is anybody that tells you have genetic problems is a lie. But anyways, just all these things. And I just sat there and said, I disagree. And what I did as a 24-year-old, because I was 24 when I started this, I looked and I said, and I actually saw things so differently because of my health and what happened I saw my wife do. And then, of course, no one believed me. So I said, okay, I'm just a up north country boy from northern Wisconsin. And I said, I'm going to prove you all wrong. And I did. Started with one clinic, started with my own profession, started to branch out to other professions, started to go. And the next thing you know, we're from Europe to Hawaii, and we actually increase in our size every single month.
That's great.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Congratulations.
So clinical results.
People are waking up. They're going, something's wrong with the system. We've been buying into this system that keeps telling us lies and spending money. Everyone's sicker than they've been. They're not getting healthier. They're getting sicker. And so it's interesting how people still put so much credence into it. And you're like, well, look at the numbers. We have more diseases and more diseases than
cancer, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Ron and I, we did a couple shows on that, and we've lost 4 women in our family collectively to breast cancer. Not one of them had a history of breast cancer. Not one of them had the BRCA gene. So that's something that I want listeners, ladies, to listen to too, because a lot of people think, oh, they don't have the gene, they're fine. No.
So I think I know how Dr. Flynn's going to answer this question I have for him. Who is in control when it comes to stress?
By far, it's the individual.
So
it really is. And Durham, people say, well, there's other people that cause you stress. Absolutely. But remember, life on every situation is based on how you respond to it. It always is. And remember, and I'm talking as a clinician now, sitting across from women all my life and stuff like that, and actually understand them. That's what people don't understand. It's kind of hilarious. I was interviewed literally on a breast cancer podcast 2 hours ago. And it was interesting because it's quite amazing that it's difficult because we've so programmed people to think that I'm a victim to things that are going on. And like, that's not really true. You know what I'm saying? You can have the BRCA gene or not have the BRCA gene and doesn't determine if you get cancer or not. It's not based on a gene response. Yes, I will tell you this. You're more susceptible to have breast cancer if your estrogen levels are bad in the BRCA gene, but still based on your hormone levels and stuff. So, and once again, and if you don't hardly get a normal, so people say, well, doc, I have a family history. Yeah, your grandma and mom had just as bad as healthcare as you had your whole life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Family history of sick care. Yeah. And I wanted to correct myself. We didn't lose 4. We had 4 women who had breast cancer, and 2 of them we lost. Anyway, so what is the craziest recommendation you've ever given to someone dealing with stress?
Get divorced.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I will tell you this. And if you ask enough women, and this, remember, understanding this made me a better husband. Understand this made me a better doctor when I really understood. And I want you to take this seriously. Stress will crush a woman faster than anything. I have a beautiful wife and 4 daughters. You think I'm joking? If she was here right now, she'll tell you I try to create a very stress-least household that way. I try to make sure I have a huge company all over. I have hundreds of women that work for me. I don't want them stressed out because it goes against everything I've done. And I was so surprised the amount of abuse that women go through at home. I always tell people this. I mean this sincerely. Guess what? I have a beautiful wife. You have a beautiful wife. Do you understand that no matter how beautiful our wives are, because of their hormones, testosterone gives you and I great confidence. Because guess what? I don't care how old your husband is. He thinks he's awesome every single day.
Yes, okay, I can vouch for that.
Now watch this though. Now watch this. You're going to say about this about your beautiful wife, and I can say about mine. I've always told guys, never say anything bad to a woman, because you know what happens by noon that day. She's already said so many bad things about herself. Don't be adding to it.
Ooh, I love that. That's such good advice.
Because testosterone is a very confident. It gives us, that's what it does to our brain. Women are very connective. You want to make a woman very healthy, connect with her. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you keep a woman healthy and happy. Now, yes, they have other stressors and things like that. But you think about this. I've watched women sit across from me and their husbands speak down to them. And they're like this, and women beat themselves up bad enough already. I was like going, don't do this to this. Men should be protecting women not only from themselves, but from themselves. Do you understand?
You guys are both great guys. I know that. I'm already figuring that out about you, Dr. Flynn. But my husband, he's an amazing person and always compliments me. And that's my marriage. And I've only known that. I can't imagine being in a marriage where someone is putting you down like that. That would be so incredibly stressful.
Every day. And I was that's not even my kind of world. But all of a sudden I couldn't even imagine doing that. But the idea is this. That's why when you said, what's the most crazy thing? I had to look at a woman and say, this is leading you down a bad path.
Yeah.
And I'm not your pastor. I'm not going to tell you to do that way.
Yeah. Why are you in a marriage? Why are you choosing somebody that talks to you like that?
And then the physical abuse. I don't want to speak down to any woman. Talk about the fact that you're going to actually look at a person and then physically hit them. It sounds weird, but as a clinician, this is what I had to deal with when I was actually looking at what are those big stressors coming about?
Wow. So we need tools. We need tools and techniques. Would you say more meditation, more calming, turn off that news?
First of all, more elimination. Okay? Because here's what happens this. If you keep on going to something bad, if I keep on stepping on your toe and you just say, okay, I'm going to take an herb to calm it down, which you can. I can take a drug to calm it down, which you can. I can go bed, take it down. No, just stay away from the person smashing your toe. So first, get rid of those bad things out of your life.
Okay, yeah. Okay? The source of the...
But there's things that actually can support your body through stressful times. And for example, no joke, this is probably the second most thing I've ever get out in my life is actually something called California poppy. Okay. And actually get it, California poppy. It's your state flower herb. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't know it's the state flower.
Fields of it. There's fields of it growing like crazy. That medicinal herb, it's actually so good at feeding the brain to actually create a calming effect to a person.
Isn't that where cocaine is derived from, the poppy?
No, it's actually, remember, it's like hemp and marijuana. There's a relationship, but it's not the same thing. Okay. But here's what happens. I'm actually a very pro marijuana person. Now, I'm not big into smoking it and stuff like that. So I don't think people should smoke it, but edibles should be allowed like crazy. Well, he's going to find this. I'm a very big constitutional person, so I don't think government should be involved in any of that stuff. But the idea is this, I understand after being a doc like I am, I understand why people abuse drugs, because when you're hurting, I don't care if it's from a condition or if it's from something mentally, you will do anything to actually take some of the edge off the suffering.
Right. The opioid epidemic. I mean, we have our society's broken in this way. And it's so sad. I think it goes back to how we're raised in society and maybe in the family, that we really aren't taught self-care and self-love and these techniques of, instead of reaching for that food or that drug or whatever.
Let me give you an example. I got this article and video taken down from YouTube and Facebook because I'm still deleted right now. I said, parents, you train your kids to be drug users. You're so surprised that all of a sudden, their whole life, God, hey, take an aspirin, do all these things. Here, take this drug. Don't feel good, go to drug. And all of a sudden, your 16-year-old gets dumped, and all of a sudden, she runs for something to reduce the pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like going, you're training these kids to be drug users.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then you're surprised that your daughter went and got alcohol or some addictive thing. You've trained them that way.
Yeah.
And I know it's so funny, but see, when you ask the question, there's a self-responsibility part that we don't want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Because number one thing, the two comorbidities that relate to COVID deaths, blood sugar and actually obesity. Well, where was any politician or any doctor saying, guys, stop the damn sugar? Guys, lose some weight.
Dr. Flynn, they were giving out donuts and giving out all these crappy food.
Dances and Krispy Kreme donuts. You know what I'm saying? Like free lap dances.
I was posting this over and over and over. Hey, how come no one's talking about health? How come we're not getting vitamin C shots and vitamin D IV? And how come we're not getting that? How come there's not? I mean, you really could look at the truth and say, why isn't there any conversation about diet, supplementation, sunlight, all of exercise? No,
because it was like not $80 billion in a shot for Pfizer over the course of this time. And you got to remember, you can't patent what I told you today. Labs can be done anywhere, things like that. It's actually, here's what happens this. Now, I know there's people, like you said, there are programs. You understand, when I started practice, there was Jesus and then the medical doctor. And thank God for the internet. Guess what happened? The internet started to show people that now, guess what? Information actually gets you not follow like a religion. That's why, if you ever noticed, it's not a joke. The internet changed healthcare. And that's why China and all these communist countries that don't want people to have information because they'll change it. Why do you think they're censoring right now? Do you understand? That's why I get censored. I bring you good information. You're like, Doc, it's simple. It's this. but doesn't follow their narrative. It's no different than communist China, how they don't have Facebook. They have their own Facebook so they can control the narrative. Same thing.
Yeah, knowledge is power. And then implementing that knowledge is really the power. So if you're listening today and you're feeling inspired, I would say, well, give us some tools. So I know we talked about mental stress, physical stress. What was the third one?
Chemical. So like your friend that talked about, here's what happens. Remember, ladies, this is quite interesting. I love this. Okay. If I were to just ask some questions, I'll remember it to people, say, listen, raise your hand if you've ever used Crest or Colgate toothpaste. Almost everybody raise their hand. You know why? Because you've been conditioned to use it. Well, do you ever read the back of it? It says, if
poison,
called, please call poison control. So women come, doc, I have no idea why I'm sick. Really? What did you brush your teeth with? Colgate. What did you have for breakfast? Well, I actually had Fruit Loop cereal. What did you put on your skin? I put Mary Kay makeup, which is just pure chemical toxins. And then I took my antidepressant in the morning. I'm like, wow, I have no idea with all those.
And I drank my big soda and
that's right.
Dehydrated.
And see what happens is they're thinking there's some major event and then they want to blame their mom why they got breast cancer. Do you understand? And all the stuff leads to breast cancer I just gave you right there. See, so there's chemical things. Do you understand that chemicals, do you understand medications by definition? Watch this. One of the biggest things I ever had to deal with in my career was actually birth control. Well, think about this. Birth control by diagnostic, actually in our reference for drugs, is known as an endocrine disruptor.
Yes, I've seen that. Okay, there's a study on 102 endocrine disrupting chemicals linked to breast cancer. It was in the environmental health perspective. And I saw birth control. Wait, it's an endocrine disruptor? Like, hello.
And think of it this way. Plastics, BPH, all the things. And see, so I'm just trying to say, listen, let's do everything we can to get away from those physical stress. Now I think this way. Let's go back to one of my other degrees. I'm a chiropractor. Guess what happens? I'm going to release all that physical stress. That's why people say, oh, I feel relaxed. Yeah, because why? It just reduced some stress. Well, doc, it didn't get rid of my headache. It's not your stressor causing your headache. You understand? See, they try to put even chiropractors into the fight of a viewpoint. That's not what we do. See, so I'm sitting there and going, listen, it's the job of a clinician to figure out each individual person and their stressors, and they can change. Do you understand? But we need to actually do those things. And as you start to dig deep, then people call it clean living. It's like, it's not clean living. It's actually just normal living that you're actually not stressed. I love how we talk about natural immunity. Immunity is immunity. It's not natural. It's just what happens.
Well, it's like organic produce. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, you pay extra for that. That's a luxury. No, it's what food was before we invented commercial pesticides. It's actually what we're supposed to have when our bodies were designed. I agree.
Right. GMO food is Franken food.
One really quick question before we go, and we certainly appreciate your time here today. Have there been studies on like how long, I'm not even sure if this is quantifiable, how long it takes to reduce severe stress in someone so they don't suffer detrimental health issues later? Like, for example, if you quit smoking, they say it takes an average 7 years maybe for your lungs to clear up and you have healthy lung tissue again. Is there any study like that?
Here, watch this. Let's give you a basic physiological fact. With the exception of your brain and neurological tissue, your body regenerates in 1 year. Okay. Your brain injuries take longer, and sometimes there can be some permanency in certain things. But do you understand if you cut your liver in half, do you know what it does?
Repairs, right? It repairs itself.
You understand? I want you guys to be fascinated with the human body. That's why I love physiology so much. Everything I talk to you about, I created just to understand basic physiology of the body that way. And that's how I connect the hormones and how it connects to everything that way. That's why I said, if you put a pebble in your shoe, it affects your cholesterol levels. Do you understand? But we don't look at it that way. So therefore, be fascinated with, you cut your finger and millions of cells are put there. There's not one doctor in the world, including me, that knows how to do that. And so you got to be fascinated, but you need to give your body the constituents it needs. But you got to remember, if you gave me an egg, that constituent could harm my body. You say, and we're so regenerative. See, that's why you got to go to a doctor that knows to restore things. Yes, pull the toxins away, but then you need to give the body things to rebuild. And that's where my expertise and my stuff became in that way. And so I don't care what condition you have, because guess what? When you still stress your body out, it's going to stay there, and eventually that condition can kill you. But your body wants to get this. The minute I step off your toe, does your toe wait? Does your body wait to bring down blood pressure? You're genetically programmed for normal. You're not genetically programmed for breast cancer, not genetically programmed for heart disease. It's not your mom, your grandma's, and your dad's fault why you're sick. It's the fact that your genes will respond. That's why I know you've heard this term before. The epigenetic process. Genes respond to its environment, but most people's internal environment is so toxic, stressed out like crazy. And a real doctor, a good doctor, will look and actually try to create those genetic responses. So if you do have the BRCA gene, you don't want your 4-hydroxyestrone high. Otherwise, you will get breast cancer.
So we got to approach this. So would you leave our listeners with, okay, your job today, guys, is look in your life, what are these stressors? What's causing you stress? Be honest with yourself. Is it your spouse? Is it your roommate? Is it what if it's your child? Just kidding.
Remember, by nature, children by nature are actually stressful. I mean, remember, but then if you do have stressors, there's stress adapters.
Yeah, adapters. Okay.
Adapters. So what happens, think of it this way. Number one, I want everybody to get tested because, you can actually figure out what everybody needs. Okay. And you can figure out some of the stressors to the body. But they're wrong. Can you take ashwagandha and CBD and different things like that to give your body the ability to deal with stress better? Sure. You don't want to be like that young little girl athlete that's running every day and all of a sudden her body runs out of fuel and it says, oh, she just lost her cycle. No, because if you give your body some things to adapt to the stress, and see, I like to use a little joke on this, but you understand, I know you'll laugh, but it actually makes a lot of sense. When women constantly stress out their body, I can give them things to adapt to that stress.
Yeah.
But you're just creating job security for me.
Right. Yeah. It's like indefinite, right? Until you change.
I'm like, cool. I'm nice. You got a big house. I'm putting a movie theater. I'm going to name that for you.
Speaking of,
I use a joke, but it's kind of true.
Okay. So you got to approach it. And I got to give a little shout out to mushrooms, which are adaptogens, right? Certain mushrooms. And Ron and I got off coffee. We do mud. It's called mud water. And it's 4 mushrooms, reishi, chaga, lion's mane, and one other. And then it's turmeric and it's mixed in. It's so good. It's our new elixir in the morning. Yeah. And because instead of making you fight or flight, it calms you. It has a teeny weeny bit of caffeine from the raw cacao, but it's so good. And Ron is a naturally high stressed person. And so I was noticing, God, every time you drink the coffee, it's just like you're on edge. And so we have detoxed from it. We don't do coffee. And what a great change, because why?
That's good.
Coffee. I mean, how do you feel about coffee? It's just.
Well, here, let's generally talk about this.
I'm not mad at coffee.
You're talking my nutritional world that way. Here's what happens. If his stress hormones are elevated,
I'm still here, by the way.
Let's talk about brunch.
Guess what happens? Say this way. He shouldn't do it. But actually, I don't know why people freak out about caffeine. Do you understand there's caffeine in strawberries?
I think the dependency, right? I mean, the obsession.
Dependency is this. For example, if I have a woman that has low cortisol levels in the morning, drink coffee, take the stimulant. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're going to actually raise her cortisol levels so she can adapt to the day. Now, if your cortisol levels are off the chart, guys, don't do that. You're just putting a little bit more stimulant in there. They don't need stimulants. Don't generalize to people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
Because you generalize people, because guess what happens? With my nutritional degrees and stuff like that, I can sit there and go, I could actually legitimately prove to a person that an egg could be extremely good for somebody, but the meat could kill me. See, so what happens is this. So now you're wrong. Do you know where the best place to use coffee is?
In the colon.
In your rectum.
You're speaking our,
Not a joke.
Colon, I know.
You know why?
Colon hydrotherapy.
It actually gets less broken down. You get great glutathione production within the thing. Actually, it's fantastic for the cells of the intestinal tract. So there's a lot of great things. So that's why you can't generalize. Now, Durham, or non-organic coffee is the second highest pesticide-based food in the world.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, we've got to say organic coffee.
Do you know
specific.
What number one is? Your number one is?
Yeah, I do. Cotton.
No. Do you number one food? You don't eat cotton.
Food.
Strawberry.
Soy.
Strawberries. Strawberries dominate even more than coffee. Dominate like crazy.
Wow.
That's why you see the hazmat things when they spray in strawberries. It's by far the most toxic non-organic food there is.
Yeah. Just do organic if you're listening to the show. There's no way to defend non-organic. It's just, you can't.
That's not food. That's not food.
So many chemicals. Yeah.
There's so many chemicals. And that creates what? Stress in the body.
Stress. Yep. Disease. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Flynn, thank you so much. I know you've helped our listeners. You've helped us. I've learned a lot from this.
Okay.
I want to repeat this so I can listen to it again and remember all those.
Well, I want to say one thing. I want to give listeners a tool. I know we're trying to eliminate the source of the stress, but what are some things that are good? Would you say meditation, or do you or certain healing frequencies? Are you into any of that? Sleep?
Love it. Well, remember, here's what happens if you just understand hormones, especially. Every person should be in bed between 9 and 10 every night.
Okay. I've been told that by naturopaths before.
The circadian rhythm of your hormones, you will actually cause your adrenals start to put its hormone reserves between 9 and 10, between actually 9 and 1. So that's why if you go to bed at midnight and sleep till 8, compared to go to bed at 9 or 10 and sleep till 5 or 6, you're much more crisp in the morning because now you actually have your hormone levels come up at the proper time, which is your circadian rhythm. So sleep is by far, it's the most important. Do not be deficient in your key electrolytes: potassium, sodium, calcium, and stuff, and magnesium. Those 4, especially people who do not get enough calcium, And even as a vegan, you may be close, but you need 4,700 milligrams of potassium per day. That's 7 to 10 cups of vegetables per day. Otherwise, you don't have enough potassium itself. So your electrolytes alone that way. We don't eat enough salt. We are so salt deficient. And the reason why people think there's salt excess is because processed salt actually has a very high affinity to stay in the body, but you're more potassium deficient. Now, what happens is this. There's other stressors going around. You need to get your hormones tested. You really do. Remember, testing to me is the key because it's individualized that way. So yes, do everything that calms down. Watch the sun come up. Watch the sun come down. Infrared saunas. I mean, I love watching the sun come up. It actually helps your hormone levels, helps your energy levels, helps everything that way. I actually ground even in the winter. I put my feet on the ground. I love infrared light, all the things like that. There's
connecting
so
with
many
nature,
things.
all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a country boy. I live in the country. I actually have acres. I have a big house in the middle of a country that way. I like to wake up and go outside even in the cold. And remember, cold therapy, cryotherapy is absolutely incredible for you.
Yeah.
But then they said, no joke, there's so many good things that you can do. But what happens that's why it's a journey. Be guided by somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. Don't just hear it on the news and then go. Yeah. So back to that salt issue. Are we talking about because the salt is no longer iodized? Is that the problem why people are salt deficient? Or is it the soil of the food?
They don't get enough salt.
I mean, if you talk to people, like you said, most people think, oh, salt's so bad. I mean, I think it's been
not bad.
A PR campaign to make people so fearful of salt, right?
If you think about this, I can disprove that in 2 seconds. Here's what happens. The exchange of every cell causes sodium-potassium pump. So salt's not bad. It's used for every exchange of every cell in the body, including brain tissue to your big toe. And what happens is your activity of your nerves remember they're called electrolytes because they produce electricity. But people, what they do is if you are so potassium deficient, salt does not move out of the cell, potassium does not move in, there's not that electrical current happening. So therefore salt stays inside the cell, which now attracts water, and then you get all puffy, high blood pressure, things like that. But it's not because of salt, it's because you're actually deficient in other electrolytes. So this concept that salt's bad is ridiculous. Actually, people don't eat enough salt usually.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow. Woo. Okay, guys. I hope you learned a lot today. I did.
I did too. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Flynn. This was amazing. We appreciate you being here so much. And friends, by using simple ways to overcome stress and its effects, this can help you live out your priorities. Not only will you feel better physically and mentally, you'll actually feel good about what you've done, and your big toe will be very, very happy.
That's right. That's perfect. Make big toes great again.
I love that. Yeah.
Make big toes. Here's a shout out to the big toes of America.
That's right.
So hop on over to Dr. Patrick Flynn, and that's Flynn with 2 N's, right now and learn more. Or you can also find a Wellness Way health restoration clinic near you by visiting thewellnessway.com.
Woohoo! Thank you, Dr. Flynn, and thank you for listening. Please head to ronandlisa.com/podcast for all of the show notes and the links that we discussed today. And be sure to subscribe to Healthy Home Hacks. See you on the next episode. Until then, stay healthy.
Stay healthy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
This episode of the Healthy Home Hacks podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more healthy living strategies and tactics to help you create the healthy home you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.